We're going to begin here. Is the mic good? Okay. So welcome to the 34th meeting of the 46th year of the Dublin Worthington Rotary Club. And it certainly is exciting that we are getting back together after over a year of not being together. It was a year ago that we held our last meeting in person, and we did not even realize at that point it would be our last meeting in person. This is our first hybrid meeting, and I want to thank everyone who served on the committee for our hybrid meetings. That includes Teresa, Steve, Ro was on the committee, and Chuck was on the committee, and I think that was, and myself. We did a lot of searching before, and as you know, we decided not to do a hybrid, and now we're back to it. And I have to say thank you very much for allowing us to come back. The school has, in fact, worked very hard with us to be able to set up the facilities in a way that we can, in fact, do virtual in addition to the in-person. And so we do have people on virtual. About how many right now?
About 14.
14. So this is probably one of our better attended meetings, period. So it's a great thing. We, of course, chose to do the drawing in person. We thought that would bring a few people. It always does. So we appreciate that. The invocation and pledge of allegiance will be delivered by Katie. Oh, there you are. No, you do not.
Oh, I do not. Okay. Well, anyways, I'm liberated. Woohoo! All right, what's first? The invocation? Right. All right. Let us pray. Dear Lord, thank you so much. We are so grateful to be back here visiting everybody. Glad to start down the road into quote unquote normal, and so great to see everyone's smiling faces. Please, Lord, help us through this time, help us back into normalcy. That's the best way to call it. But anyways, thank you for everything. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
President-elect Steve. President-elect Steve, you have now introductions of guests, and we have a number of those.
We do. Yes. If you're a guest, raise your hand. I can't see. Ah, yes. If you brought a guest, tell us who they are.
That woman here, who is from First Financial Bank, has been branch manager of a local branch for a number of years. And is now their corporate community engagement manager. So, welcome, Kathy.
Do we have any other guests? We have a speaker who will be introduced later, but I don't see any other guests.
Okay, any announcements? Please come forward at this point. Yes, Peggy. And, Jim, do you want to do sergeant first? Oh, I'm sorry, sergeant. That's right. We've got a sergeant. We have a sergeant who will in fact be collecting happy dollars.
Mr. Speaker, with your hand up. Only because it's appropriate to take the, well, some things are the same. Yes, today, a new involvement here, or we're deferring to great work on the part of the virtual for the last year of doing this job. So they went to the bottom of the barrel and they came up with what they got. And this is what you get. In any case, this is only going to be happy dollars. No baseball scores, no football scores, all only happy dollars. So those of you who have happy dollars are going to be giving into this pot. And the pot carrier, because he's in the middle of his fourth, fifth, or sixth, I think, hit chips, I'm not sure, Joe Patch. You're carrying the, you're carrying a pot today, put it, oh, okay. Put a buck in somehow, and then we start down now with Al Fink.
Well, in reverse alphabetic order, I just wanted to say I'm happy to be here and happy for all the good work that everybody did to keep us together.
Thank you. Welcome back.
I'm happy that my son is happily back at school, and also happily starting on the marching band for Worthington Billboard. So watch out for the drum section.
Oh, good job.
Yeah.
That's good. More over here, Jim, and then Jeff.
Let's try to keep them all on one side of the room. All right, Ron, back here.
And more from Patch, and he can have.
I'm really happy to see everybody. Oh my gosh. Secondly, I now live a half a mile from the Deer Haven Baker Memorial Park. And so I am really happy, John, that you've given me a venue for my big oath of a rescue in.
Take your dogs out of this bird sanctuary.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Jim. Jeff.
Yeah, happy to see everyone's three-dimensional faces. This is great. It's been a long time. Kids are getting back into some sense of normalcy. I think that's great about the band. My daughter Lily, I know, is starting her summer equestrian stuff, and my son is in the middle of lacrosse season, which has been fun. And he recently accepted an offer to attend Purdue in the fall, so he'll be studying engineering there. We're looking forward to that.
That's great. Any other happy dollars? Joe, come on up here. I'd like to do a couple different things. First of all, is the happy dollar to Trent and the entire school system for letting most of us in. We were not permitted to come in for the last 3 or 4 years, but it's always good to come into the building again. And then second of all, to announce that Greg and Amy are expecting one more student in the system in about 5 years from now. So get ready. And that means we'll have phase 17 of the tax increment. So thank you very much. Having said that, I'm going to turn this back over and the dollars go back to Jennifer. The accounting first. Yes. A question. That'll cost me more money. That's at the next meeting when we have. No. So thank you very much for the consideration.
Yeah, we're with announcements. Please come up. Just turn it off for the announcements quickly. Very tight.
Just want to remind everybody that across the hall, we'll be bagging our trees for the 5th graders. It shouldn't take if we have enough volunteers, 10 would be good, to help bag. We will deliver those 10 tomorrow and they will hand them out to the students on Friday. It's in celebration of Arbor Day, and this is our club's way of fulfilling the wishes of Rotary International by doing an environmental project. So we need you across the hall. If we all get together, maybe a half hour to get them delivered. And Andrew, want to raise your hand, you'll be helping. And Mike Mulder. And they'll be there. Mike has been the co-chair with me for 4 years, and Andrew's going to take over my position for next year. So thanks, everybody.
I don't know how to coordinate that. Let's crawl. Go ahead.
Yes, I know Kip volunteered to help on the delivery, so we could use one more delivery driver to drop these off to one of the schools.
Andrew's going to do it.
I know we got Andrew's gonna be one of our drivers. Kip said he would help out. We could probably use at least one more driver, so if anybody can help out, just let us know.
Keith,
Bill? Okay,
We'll give you the trees when we're done.
you just can't put them all in your backyard.
When we're all done. Yeah, I can
Mongolia update. Thanks to our NGSC committee for the district and to Dave Hansen and Wynn, who serve on that committee with me. The Mongolians were going to be here initially in October for our exchange program. They're locked down in Mongolia right now until at least May 5th. It's at best a crapshoot as to when things open up there. The Chinese vaccine is trickling in. There's not a lot of Pfizer, et cetera. But we are hopeful that they're going to be here in October. That's not only pertinent, but I call to your attention, everybody that hasn't seen this month's Rotary magazine, take a look on page 1. RI President Holger Knack says all about NGSC. And I read you only one sentence. New Generation Service Exchange is a Rotary program that deserves wider recognition. We are out in front, you guys, on that. The Mongolians are going to be here. The keynote story there is all about large multi-partner grants that exceed global grants. The partners we have on the Let's Read Literacy project that we initiated with our sister club over there is exactly that. We'll be back to you with some particular interesting stories as we get used to meeting in person. But briefly, Steve, can you roll those slides? Sutha Byamjadal is a star English as a second language teacher. She will be here in October. These are her star students. Next one, Steve.
Oh, it's all time.
Oh, that's it?
Well, it's gonna keep going. It's got 2 minutes.
Oh, okay. Sorry. We have no audio today. We'll be able to play you audio, so technical difficulties coming from Mongolia. But I promised Jim I'll be quick, so let me simply say, our star students include this kid up there that's now studying finance. These people are from far southern Mongolia in the Gobi Desert. He's studying finance, and he's the kid I told you about a couple of years ago that said, what the heck is Rotary? Where is Ohio? And why are these people helping us? And now that he knows, he says, I want to be a Rotarian when I grow up. That's him there. They're going to be here in the fall. I'll have audio for you in a week or two. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you. The announcement, I now would like Dave to come on up. Dave has graciously been willing to choose the winning letter and number of drawing. However, Dave, you're going to have to be masked during the time. Yeah. We have discovered, and you no, put it over your eyes. So we're going to be choosing numbers at this point and letters. The first thing that he will choose is the fifth place letter from the drawing. So put your hand into the bag.
Okay. All around.
One. Okay. C. Now they will choose the line leading the line. And they will choose, mix that up good, and choose one of those. 132. And C, who is 132 C?
C 132 is Harry Bouquet Martin.
Okay.
Harry,
Harry, okay,
down here.
Okay, again, second, this is fourth place.
What does fourth place mean?
Fourth place is $250.
What was the first one?
$250. And it's C, and especially if you pick your number 50%. Sixty C.
You're not 60.
Who is that?
C60 is Mary Greenlee.
We'll mix them again a bit, and this is for third place, which is also $250. A. And C. All around. And that's 148. A.
148A is Doug Southgate. Been a mistake. A148 is actually Drew Shunnison. Doug, I'm very sorry.
Steve Harvey over there.
Okay, and this is for $500. And Doug, you're still in the drawing, so maybe you. Okay. 150.
E150 is truly Doug Southgate.
I'll trade you.
Boy, that is. That's a 1 in 80 possibility. Congratulations, Doug. We just celebrated this. And now for $1,250.
I don't want nobody to tell my wife. I've already called it.
It is E. Yeah. 155E.
155E is Todd Weitzman.
So thank you, Katie and Dave. You were a good victim, and we appreciate
10%.
Now we have our speaker. And Joe, could you please introduce our speaker? And you may want to sit in your seat. He will be presenting from the podium.
Thank you. I am pleased to tell you that our speaker today is the esteemed Dean of the Ohio State University College of Veterinary Medicine, Dr. Rustin Moore, and he is going to, and I have a preview of this because this is a TED Talk. The power of a pet. Thank you, Dr.
Testing.
Hold on.
Okay, can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Joe, for one, inviting me here, and for, I like your introduction, very, very, very short. Perfect. I also would like to give a shout out to George Norris, who I actually agreed to come in person because I thought he would be here, and now I see him on the video screen, so it's great to be here. I was saying earlier, how much time did I have, and anyway, this is normally a 2-hour presentation, so just sit back and relax. In all seriousness, we'll get you out of here on time. So although the title is The Power of a Pet, let me first start with One Health. And I don't know if you've heard that term, but One Health really refers to the inextricable link between human health, animal health, and environmental health. And you can look around, and I'll talk more about this as we go on, but this is really important. And what I would like to say is, hopefully you'll understand the importance of veterinarians and veterinary medicine in the center of that triad of One Health. When I think of One Health, I think of it as a veterinarian as the 3 Z's of One Health, and you're probably thinking, what are you talking about? So let's start. So first, the first Z is zoonoses. And those are those diseases that are infectious in nature and are contagious and go from animals to people. And clearly in the headlines, if you've been awake and breathing in the last year, you would understand that COVID-19 happens to be one of those zoonotic diseases. But they're all around us, MERS and SARS and rabies and Ebola. And actually 70% of all infectious diseases that emerge or re-emerge in people start in animals. And that's pretty scary, actually, if you think about it. Next is ubiquity, and that's a very fancy term. I think of it simply as comparative medicine. And as many of you know, the anatomy and physiology and pathophysiology of disease in animals and people are very similar. Animals, like people, get cancer, they get heart disease, they get arthritis, diabetes, and all those things. So this is really what is referred to as a species spanning approach. So we look at all of these things together, we can learn from one another and improve the health and well-being of both people and animals. And the third is zoonotic, which we'll come back to in just a minute. Now, before you start laughing at this picture, this was me back in the 1970s. I think this, you can tell by the haircut. I grew up in West Virginia, so I grew up in really Appalachia. For those who don't know about the Appalachian region, West Virginia is the only state that's fully encompassed or engulfed in the Appalachian region out of 13 states. I'm actually very proud of where I came from. I'm very appreciative of the fact that they made sure that all three of us went to college. We were first generation college graduates. But you can see from back then, I have been connected with animals my entire life. These are just two of many that I had back at that time. So let me fast forward. And so when I was at Louisiana State University back between 1994 and 2006, I was an equine surgeon. So that's what my specialty was before I went into administration. And during Hurricane Katrina, actually after Hurricane Katrina, I was involved in organizing the rescue of about 500 horses from floodwaters and other things because they were stranded. Well, this pony actually was left in the barn because the people had to leave quickly. A tree fell into the barn and actually fell into her stall, but fortunately missed her. She was rescued and she was then adopted by someone because the owners no longer could care for her. Well, fast forward about 2 months, a dog that they also rescued, not the one that's in the background there, but another dog actually attacked this pony and some of the other ponies. And it basically resulted in her losing the lower half of her right front leg because it crushed the blood vessels. And so there was no blood flow there. I got a call from the veterinarian on a Saturday. I remember it vividly. And they were saying that the owner wanted to do everything possible to save this pony. And they wanted me to amputate and fit the pony with a prosthesis. And of course, you know, I'm glad we're not on FaceTime. That didn't even exist back then, I don't think, because I probably was rolling my eyes thinking, yeah, right. So nevertheless, that following Monday, they brought the pony. I, after a long discussion with the owner, said, okay, I'll watch the pony here for a couple of days and see if I think this is a good candidate, because I won't go into all the reasons why many horses aren't a good candidate. And in the end, I determined that she was. So I did do an amputation. We fit her with a prosthesis. That's the easy part. The hard part was the owner had to, the veterinarian and the farrier, the person who helps, take care of their hooves, actually did the hard work for the next 12 years, keeping this pony going. Now that's, you might say, well, why is that relevant to this? Well, the important part of this is, well, there's the pony you can see with the prosthesis, and this happened to be taken on the levee of the Mississippi River in downtown New Orleans. But really what this pony did is it became an ambassador for the next 12 years, traveling all over the South. Actually, it's been in Columbus twice, actually was at Walter Reed Medical Center twice, and it's really serving as an ambassador, showing people that it's okay to look different and be different and still contribute. If you could have attended any of these events in person, and actually I have chills now thinking about this, watching some of these, but these are just two. The young boy on the left was a boy that lost his leg to bone cancer. As you all probably know, adolescents are prone to that. This boy was very shy and reserved and really didn't want to, go out and be active because he looked different. And whenever they took Molly to a cancer camp, this kid just came lit up and came out of his shell. There's actually a video television piece that actually shows him riding a skateboard and doing all these other things. The gentleman on the right, that was actually in Amherst, Ohio, and it was at a elder care facility. It was actually on a beautiful day. I was up there, and all of the people that lived there actually were out on the patio having lunch. This gentleman in his wheelchair was far away in a corner, very complacent. And so basically they walked the pony around to everybody. This gentleman actually reached out, grabbed a hold of her halter by both sides, lifted himself out of the wheelchair, and kissed that pony on the bridge of the nose. Now, let me tell you, that was a very emotional period for me to just watch that. So to me, what this does is it just demonstrates, again, the power of a pet or the power of that relationship. So the human-animal bond is really, it refers to a mutually beneficial relationship, and it's a dynamic one. It actually benefits both people and the animals. Many times the pet or the animal is the most important thing in that person's life. And oftentimes the only thing that is stable in a person's or a family's situation. And also, I don't know how many of you know this, but women primarily, but who are victims of domestic violence. If they have a pet, more than likely they will not leave that situation for fear of what will happen to the pet when they leave, which means they stay in that same situation and have repeat episodes of being, having violence. Fortunately, and very few up until recently, domestic violence shelters have actually allowed pets. Now, and when we have at least one here in Ohio, Central Ohio now, Choices, they actually have built kennels so that people can take their dogs or cats there. And so again, if you think about someone who's being abused physically or otherwise, and they're willing to stay in that because of their pet, think about what that says about the bond. We certainly know also that over the last 30 years, pets have evolved, at least from the perspective of people. We have humanized pets. Pets are, we consider them people. 75% of households have at least one pet, which equates to about 70 people. 90% of people who have a pet consider it their family member. Many times kids, 7 to 8 years of age, actually, it gives them self-confidence, and actually they confide in their pet by talking to them about things that they're unwilling to talk to other times. And the other thing is 90% of people who have a pet, they think of them as a family member, and the majority of them sleep on their bed, not in the dog's bed, on their bed. And I'm guilty, times two. And these are just twin boys and twin girls, not the same family, but in my neighborhood, who come over regularly when they see the dogs. And so you can see the smiles on the kids' faces, but you can actually see the smiles on the dogs' faces. So this is Bev and Roy. Back about 5 years ago in February, I had the honor to go out and meet these individuals. These individuals lived in homeless camps here in Columbus. And you don't want to go out into a homeless camp unless you go with someone who they know and trust. But I went there because I wanted to hear from them. Why are you here? Because, why don't you just give up your pet? Because most places, most shelters, homeless shelters, won't allow pets. And most housing won't either. And so I knew the answer before I asked them, but I wanted to hear them say it. They basically said that I can't give up Boo Boo or Tigger. They're like part of my family. It would be like me giving up one of my kids. So you think about that now. They're living out in the element. This was February. So it was not exactly an 85-degree day. They will live there partly because they will not give up their pets. Again, demonstrating the power of that bond. Now we go on to Zoea, and that's the third C. So let me come back to that. Zoea, really, there's an emerging body of evidence, both empirical as well as scientific, that shows that the interaction of a person with an animal has huge positive health benefits on people, physically, mentally, emotionally, socially, behaviorally, psychologically. And there's a tremendous amount of data, and it's actually all stored or archived at that site there, which I won't go into. But really, that's what this is about. The rest of the talk is about Zoea. I can't talk about it all because I only have 2 hours. So I'm going to narrow it down to just 3 things. But first, you're probably thinking, show me the evidence. So I'm going to show you some examples. But in addition to what I show you, if you interact with a pet, your blood pressure will be lower, your heart rate will be lower, you'll have lower cortisol, which is a stress hormone. You'll have an increase in oxytocin, which is a feel-good hormone. Better opportunity to not only lose weight, but maintain that weight, and many other things. So this is just some data, and I'm not going to leave it up there long, but basically this goes to show, based upon study after study after study, people who have a heart attack or a stroke, if they have a dog, they have a 30% better chance of survival than those who do not. So if you don't have a dog, I would suggest you go get one right after this. The other thing is, and this just reminds me to say that in a study about 3 years ago, they showed that there was a $12 billion savings in healthcare costs for people who had a pet. And they only looked at one factor, the cost of just an office visit. They didn't look at the cost of someone in the hospital with a heart attack and all that. $12 billion savings on healthcare just with based on office visit costs for those people who had a pet. So this is one of the 3 things I'm going to focus on: autism spectrum disorder. As you probably know, the Center for Disease Control has shown that about 1 in 68 births lead to someone that has some level of autism, and 1 in about 54 boys. So it seems to be more common in boys. And, it leads to, learning and communicating difficulties, and, leads to them they're usually manifest in childhood, and many times stays with them throughout their adulthood. And it really does impact them in many ways. And I'm sure everybody here has either been affected by that, either with a family member, a neighbor, a colleague, or someone who has a child with that. But the good news is interacting with a pet can really help people with autism. This is just an example. This is a letter written by a 14-year-old boy who actually was in a correctional facility in Marysville, here in Ohio, and was being treated for physical, emotional, and learning challenges. And so he was given the task of training a shelter dog named Oswald so that Oswald could become an adoptable pet. So think about that. So that's what his task was. Now read the letter. I'll read it to you. This was after. Oswald is lovable because he gives hugs, he really nice, and he like kids. Oswald looked like a fuzzy bear. He play really nice and he run really fast. He does not bit, and Oswald is like 6 years old. Oswald need a family because he need a lot of love. Oswald is fun to play with, and he need a family that care at him. He loved to be around people. Oswald is funny, and Oswald is a dog that listens to rules. Now think about that for a minute. He described what he did not have as a child. To the T, because I talked to the people who shared this with me. He identified what this dog needed to be successful because he knew what he didn't have. And so this really did have a really positive impact on this young boy. So now you're probably saying, well, okay, now we're moving on to Alzheimer's and dementia. And you're probably thinking, why are you showing me slides of dogs with their ears up or their heads tilted? Well, first of all, you probably know that there's about 5.5 million people in the US that have Alzheimer's, and there's millions more with other types of dementia. What we know about Alzheimer's or dementia with pets is that pets offer companionship to them. And actually, dogs are natural born listeners, hence the slide. They may not know what you're saying all the time, unless you're saying, do you want a treat or do you want to go outside or all that. But you can talk to them and they'll just look at you and give you positive reinforcement. So that is one of the positive things, because they give both, they give nonverbal feedback to people. And they can also reduce anxiety, agitation, and aggressive behavior, which many people that have these conditions have. So that is another positive thing that pets can have. Now this gentleman in this picture was 78 years old. His name is Alan, and he was part of a study that Ohio State College of Veterinary Medicine and the College of Social Work was doing, looking at the effect of equine assisted therapeutic interventions with people with Alzheimer's or dementia. Now, after every visit, when they were going back, Alan would ask the questions. When can I go back and see Jack? Jack was the horse. When can I have Jack? And when can I ride Jack? Every single time you repeat those same questions. Okay, the study ended and they didn't go back to see Jack anymore. On his 78th or his 82nd birthday, 4 years later, you know which 3 questions he asked. So this goes to show the power and strength of the human-animal bond, regardless of age and mental capacity. So these are just, to me, powerful stories. Now let's move on to PTSD, and certainly all of you are aware of what that is, and it can be brought on by many things, whether it's military combat, a natural disaster, or other things such as physical or sexual assault. What we know is 8% of people in the US, unfortunately, experience PTSD sometime during their lifetime, and 30% of veterans experience it. And it is a serious, serious thing. Now, I had some videos to show that really bring some of this stuff home, but because of audio-visual reasons, I deleted them because we weren't going to be able to hear them. But you can certainly see some of those online. Now, this gentleman, the one on the right, which is in the foreground, that has sunglasses on his head, this is Ryan. And Ryan is one of our former veterinary students. And actually, and I'm sharing this with his permission, he just graduated actually last year from veterinary school. But when he was 17, he lost his confidant, his dog, Jim, after 11 years. And that was really the first time he experienced true grief. And let me just stop there and say, I forgot to say this, many people with pets grieve more over the loss of their pet than they do over the loss of a family member. For various reasons, just keep that in mind. So he lost his dog at 17. He always thought he wanted to go to veterinary school, but he got this sort of itch for an adventure, so he joined the military. Very early on after his basic training, he got deployed into a war zone, and he was injured seriously and led to medical retirement from the military and to a diagnosis of PTSD. His mother watched him sort of deteriorate or not sort of be coming out of it. So she gave him what he describes as a life-changing, life-saving gift. And that was a runty Great Dane. Now you don't think of a runt when you think of a Great Dane, but a runty Great Dane pup that he named Izzy. This is what one of his statements in his letter of application to veterinary school. This dog saved my life. It amazes me how the bond we developed brought me back to life. Izzy got me through some very difficult times. Now, fast forward. Dogs don't live forever. Izzy passed away. His roommate actually saw Ryan regressing. So his roommate convinced him, he said, you know, maybe we should go look for another dog. And eventually Ryan said, okay, and they went and looked at another dog. Well, the good news is they found another Great Dane, and appropriately and ironically, he named it Maybe. And this is Maybe when he was a pup. Looks like he's shopping in a pet store. But this dog also really had a huge impact and was really helpful in getting him through school. Now, not everybody can have a dog. Not everyone can have a Great Dane. And one really important thing is consult a veterinarian before you get a pet. It's not, you know, there's different breeds of dogs for different type of people. A cat versus a dog versus a fish versus a whatever. They all have the same sort of effect. But, you know, an elderly person who maybe has difficulty getting around probably doesn't need some little yappy dog, you know, around their feet knocking them down, or a big dog. I mean, there's other ways to think about it. So it's really important to think about the type of dog. I saw this a couple years ago, and I'm thinking, now, does that show the power of the human-animal bond? A wounded veteran chose his therapy dog or companion dog as his best man. Think about it. That's pretty powerful. So what can we do? Well, one of the things that we can do is we can actually talk about this, tell our friends about the power of this, and actually share with the healthcare workers and others. One thing is important because of the bond is when you go to the doctor, if they don't ask you, they ask you all sorts of other questions. How many of them have actually asked you if you have a pet? Very few. If they ask, and this has been shown, if they ask people, do you have a pet? Tell me about your pet. It builds trust immediately. They're more willing to reveal things in their background that they might otherwise not because they didn't have that trust. Getting a medical history to me is the most important thing a physician or a veterinarian can do. Because you can go down what's called a rabbit hole really quick if you don't have a full picture. So that's the other thing. If you go there, or you're accompanying, maybe you're a medical advocate for someone, make sure if they don't ask you, you tell them. The other thing we should think about incorporating pets into therapy. People will do for pets what they will not do for themselves. I know because we work with 9 organizations in the community to provide care to pets, and some of those are those served by Meals on Wheels. We were the ones that were recognized they were feeding their meal to the pet because they did not have pet food. Now, Life Care Alliance delivers pet food to those homes which have pets. They will buy prescription drugs or whatever. They'll do anything for their pet before then. They will not go out and walk to lose weight or reduce the chance of a heart attack, but they'll walk their dog. So those are the types of things that we need to think about. The other thing is a dog is a conversation waiting to happen. Think about it. When you walk if you walk, okay, let me tell you, when I walk in the neighborhood, which I do a lot, and I'm by myself, people either they don't say anything and they don't make eye contact very often. If I'm walking my two dogs, they'll cross the street, they'll cross traffic. Do I think that's because of me? No. They come over and, fondle the dogs, and I mean that in a nice way. So it really is something that we should think about. The other thing is we can suggest physicians prescribe a pet, and people are starting to do this. So here's a prescription I received back in 2014. Adopt 2 black miniature schnauzers and spend at least 10 minutes with them once or twice or as much as you can. Now, is that a real prescription? No. But I did get 2 miniature schnauzers back in December 2014. Here they are. Normally they would make an entrance about this time, but today was a little hectic for me. But I can tell you they changed, I'm a veterinarian, I've had pets all my life, but I hadn't had an animal for 20 some years because I was too busy, or thought I was. They have reprioritized my life. I now, when I was working at the office and not from home, I knew I had to go home. Now I would work at home afterwards, but I didn't stay there. But it also reduces stress and all those things that I've already shared. So we know that there's a lot of other important things other than a dog or a cat or what playing a role as a pet or a family member. And I won't go through all these, but therapy dogs. Some of these dogs are in police stations or in courtrooms because it helps calm witnesses and give them confidence. Service dogs, and then certainly military working dogs. Pets, actually in the workplace, companies that allow pets in the workplace have a higher morale, higher level of energy, more innovation, better retention, et cetera. And there are companies right here in Columbus that allow that and have been featured, BarkBox being one of them, if you've heard of that. So we're doing a lot in the area at Ohio State in studying this. There's multiple colleges involved, but for sake of time, I certainly can't go through it, but here's just 4 examples. I've already touched on a couple of them. The one I want to mention is the one at the bottom, Pop Care, pet owner and pet care. So we know that Ohio, we rank about 43rd among 50 for public health issues, obesity, cancer, heart disease. Pets could help in many of those areas. And so what we did a pilot with the College of Nursing and the College of Social Work, and now the College of Pharmacy has joined us. We took all of those people from all of those colleges into the homes of those that we serve that are served by Meals on Wheels to allow the students to experience, because we've been going in those homes for 10 years, and they were asking us about social service, things that would really be social services, about their own health. Well, although we know some of that, we really shouldn't be giving advice on that stuff. So, but we went in as a group. So it goes back to that sort of One Health approach. And the results were phenomenal. And one of the things we found is that even with some of the new clients that we hadn't been going to, if the veterinary student was the first person to start the conversation about the pet, the whole thing went much better. And they were more willing to share things about either their own health, the need for medical care, social services, or other things, which goes back to the point I made earlier about why it's important to ask about pets. I don't have time, and we've actually suspended our outreach program, which started 10 years ago, and we serve 9 different groups. You can see what some of those are. We had to suspend that because of COVID, more so for them than us, because we were certainly concerned about us maybe taking something into the home of a homebound person or others that actually might not have access to medical care. We hope to be able to resume that sometime in the near future. And these are just some of the smiles and on the faces of people. They are so happy that someone cares about their pet. And what we learned in the very beginning is we would get emergency calls. It wasn't about the pet. They were lonely. They wanted and so we had to make sure we adjusted on what we were there for, which was to provide care. So with that, I'll take any questions you have. I got a 2-hour talk done in about 25 minutes. Questions, comments? If not, I'll call them. Yes, sir.
Pets in prisons?
Yes. Question was about pets in prisons. Actually, there are many prisons, actually here in Ohio and elsewhere, who actually raise and train service dogs or therapy dogs. It's really beneficial to them because of all the positive things I just mentioned. But those, so Canine Companions for Independence is one example, but there's other organizations. They told me, the head of the organization, because we work with them, the two populations of people that are the best at raising a therapy dog, I'm not talking about an emotional support dog, or it's a dog that may help someone with a disability or whatever. Two populations who are the most likely to train the dog to a point it's successful, because there's about a 50% failure rate actually. Prison, number 1. People in academia, number 2. I don't know what that says about academia and prison. But anyway, yes, and it does have a positive impact on them, their behavior, their health, their well-being, etc. Yes.
I was gonna ask why a prison being number 1? Academia, I get, but what's it's about?
I think it's the regimen or the organization and the fact what else is, they're there. They had something to focus on. And they have a task, and it probably gives them pleasure to actually accomplish that. Now they don't, when you're raising these puppies, you actually have to socialize them. They certainly don't go out and socialize them. There are people, volunteers, who go to the prison, get the puppy, socialize it at the mall or on a bus or whatever. But I would say it's because they have the time, the dedication, they're focused, they're very regimented. But that's my guess. I don't know.
Okay, there's some here.
Yes.
Did you guys, Dean, did you pick a horse with a question mark blaze intentionally?
Well, yes, I did. That was actually one of my patients when I was on faculty at Louisiana State University. That is not painted on there. That was the way it was. And it's certainly, I think, a nice image to say, does anyone have any questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I enjoyed your presentation. It's all incredible to me. And I sort of think about the other side of the coin. What's happening to what would we call them, interpersonal relationships that's, so to speak, creating a demand for the linkage with animals? Are our interpersonal relationships deteriorating?
I'll repeat the question. I'm not sure everybody could hear it, certainly those that are joining us virtually. The question was, what is happening to our interpersonal relationships that is leading to this sort of, you didn't word it this way, but maybe this dependency or this effect. I would say that this effect probably has been there all along. Particularly when pets started moving into the house 30 years ago, dog was outside running loose or chained outside or whatever. When they started moving inside, that's when things started changing. But I would say probably more than, I would guess this has probably had more negative effect on interpersonal relationships, because if I wasn't here speaking and I was one of you, I'd probably be doing this the whole time. And actually you can, you might live in a home with someone and you're in one room and they're in the other and you're texting them. So I actually think the pet probably enriches that. So certainly if there's somebody else there, I mean, all of my neighbors in the cul-de-sac have pets. We have pets. So, last evening I was in the backyard, but we were all over the neighborhood in that little cul-de-sac talking to each other, probably because of the dogs. So I think that certainly, I don't know if that answers your question, but that's my view. I'm not an expert on that, but that would be my thought. Any last questions?
It's not a question, it's more of a statement. I had a past broker who had done, helped out in a therapy dog. He brought it in and all that. I agree with you. I think it's more of, it's always been there. Watching how people interacted with him, with the therapy dog, while he was trying to teach it how to be a therapy dog. You know, it created actually more social interactions for him, irony enough. Where before, nobody would approach him to talk to him, but they would approach him because the dog is cute and then he could strike up a conversation. That was a very much of a shocker for him. But it was interesting to watch the dynamic.
Well, I think that's really important. And, I don't know why people find me intimidating because I'm very short and all that. But, when I take my dogs to work, the students come running. They would probably not do that, but, and so I do think it is something that it does break the ice, so to speak. Or the other thing I'll just mention is healthcare workers during COVID. You can imagine how stressed they are. We should give all of them an applause right now for all they've been doing. In Ohio State, we have a program called Buckeye Paws, PAWS. And they take therapy dogs in, not for the patients, because but for the staff. Because you take the dog in and even 30 seconds of bending over it, petting the dog or whatever, heart rate comes down, blood pressure comes down, cortisol comes down, and really helps in those really stressful situations. I can see there's a hook over here that's pulling me. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Rustin. We appreciate your time. If you could stick around a little afterwards, we can continue with further questions to about 10 minutes or so. Can you do that or not? If you can.
It'll be tight.
That's okay.
Call back at the house
That's
very
fine.
shortly.
Okay.
But my contact information is there. Email me. My cell's not there, but if you call my office number, it rings to my cell. Well, no, it doesn't anymore. But anyway, reach out to me. Thank you so much for your attention.
Excellent presentation. Next week, we'll have Nick Bannister, who's speaking for Neighborhood Bridges, which is both a national and a local nonprofit that lifts children and families out of poverty through partnerships at the local level. So that'll be an excellent presentation. For those of you that we could use 6 folks in the back room to finish up on Arbor Day. There is not a lot of room back there, but people could, if anyone is interested, please raise your hand. Okay. That looks like about 6 there, and we would appreciate your helping out with Arbor Day. Otherwise, let's move on to the 4-way test. And it will be May 12th will be our next hybrid meeting. We're going to take a week off to look at ways we can improve upon this. So if you could all stand and we'll recite the 4-way test. And Steve is attempting to get that up.
Do we have the banner here?
No, the banner is not here. So I will go very slow and be very loud.
We don't got it.
First
Is the truth.
Second is all concern. Third, will build goodwill and better friendships. Fourth, will be beneficial to all concerned. We are adjourned, and hopefully I'll see many of you in person on May 12th, but we will have a virtual meeting on May 5th.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You're welcome.
Wow.
Thank you.